Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Groundhopper Soccer Guides. My name is Paul Gerald, and this is another video in my series that I'm calling Beyond the Big Six. What do I mean by Beyond the Big Six? Well, the Big Six are the clubs always at the top of the Premier League. They're in the big cities. They get the big money. They get all the top players. They lift all the trophies. Obviously, those clubs, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea. All great clubs. If you get a chance to go to a game at one of those places, you're going to love it, especially if you happen to support one of those clubs. Obviously, that's going to mean a lot to you to get to see your team in person. And at Groundhopper Soccer Guides, we can help. We sell hospitality packages. We suggest which pub to go to before the game. We'll try to teach you a few songs, teach you a little bit of history about that club, plus the club that they're playing today. We're all about the entire experience here. And for me, the entire experience means getting beyond the big six, right? And in the first video that I did, that was beyond the big six, and in fact beyond the Premier League in London. So that was about half a dozen clubs that I recommended in the greater London area, because on your first trip to England especially, that's probably where you're going to be, as you should. So this video, I want to take a little step beyond London. And as you can see, pretty big country, right? London is this bit down here. Just for reference here, that's Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool. There's clubs all over the place. And in future videos, we'll travel up to the northern reaches, talk about Manchester and Liverpool area, talk about Yorkshire, etc. This video, what we're going to do is stay down by London, but travel maybe just a couple of hours. This is like the range where the previous video, you're in London, you go to a game, and you're still in London, basically. This one, you might want to spend a night out, just because we're talking now places that are a couple of hours on a train, maybe 2.5. So basically, that's going to be down here to the south coast, and up here to Birmingham and the Midlands area. So think about a 2 to maybe 2.5 hour train ride from London. So it's a night out. And you could do that in a day, but really, do you want to ride a train for 2.5 hours, travel across that town, catch a game, get back to the station and take another 2.5 hour train ride? Maybe you do. But as far as I'm concerned, and with the cities on this list today, go ahead and spend a night. There's a lot of really cool stuff around England that's not in London. Shock. There's some really cool cities that are not normal tourist attractions, but at least for a night have some stuff to offer. And especially if you roll into town knowing something about the game or about the club, going to the game, you can talk to people. That's what we're all about at Groundhopper Soccer Guides. Why don't you show up in town knowing something about the club, bond with the local people, enjoy the game, and then hang out, and I'll tell you which pub to go to and where to get some dinner. And then you can take a nice relaxed train back to London or wherever you're going next the next day. So that's what we're going to do today. It's beyond the big six, and it's a couple hours outside of London. Let's check it out. All right, so first, quick reminder, lot of clubs around England. This is not even all of them, but this is all the clubs in the top 6 tiers of the pyramid of leagues. It's about 164 clubs here, 92 that are fully professional, another 72 that are largely professional. This is what you're looking at when you're looking at the whole country of clubs. So this is the geographical area we're going to be covering today, which is basically a 2-hour transit circle around London. Obviously, we're not going to cover all of these. These are the actual locations that we're going to cover in this video. And just fair warning, we're going to go fast. So don't worry about the details here. I'm just trying to give you a quick impression of each of these places. Come over to groundhopperguides.com, get in touch with me, and I'll tell you all about what you need to know, or just buy my book. Let's go. First, we're going to go to Brighton, which really could be a day trip from London. It's really only about an hour by train out of London Bridge or Victoria Station. And a really cool town, neat old Victorian beach town. Unfortunately, I was there on a crappy day, but beautiful seafront here. There's a very famous observation tower you can go up to the top of and look around, which was, of course, lost in the fog when I was there. Cool neighborhood called The Lanes, all these neat little shops and cafes and art galleries and stuff. The Lanes is a lot of fun to go walking around in. There's some really historic stuff. There's a beautiful town named Lewes, Lewes, near there. Old castle there, also foggy. Lots of great walks you can go on. Really, really beautiful area with a really funky, weird, like Mad King George built some kind of a retreat castle type thing down there. And you can tour this place. And in the wintertime, they set up an ice rink outside it. So it's just kind of a fun place to go. The stadium at Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club, really new stadium and one of the better new stadiums in the country as far as I'm concerned. This is taken, I just stepped off the train. So as you can see, very convenient. You get off the train, you're basically at the stadium. Inside, really nice, comfortable, lots of great seats. Love Brighton and Hove. Can be kind of a tough ticket when they're in the Premier League playing a big club, but check them out. A little bit further west along the coast, Portsmouth. Portsmouth is the traditional home base of the English naval fleet. So if you have any interest in that kind of thing, in naval history, military history, it is all going on in Portsmouth. This is where the D-Day invasion left from. So you can go see a museum about that as well. Portsmouth Football Club is a much bigger club than where they are right now. They're stuck down in League One. They need to get out of there. They're a much bigger club and also a very traditional club. Great fans, cool old stadium, neat old touches like this entrance here, and a lot of funky color, just right in the middle of town. It is a really old-fashioned, great club with terrific fans, and for me, one of the cooler old stadiums around in the country. I mean, look at this. This stand was built in 1925, and other than adding seats, I doubt it has changed very much at all. So, just up the road, we're going counterclockwise, by the way. So, Southampton fans, don't get in touch with me and say, "Why the hell did you put Portsmouth first?" One of the most bitter rivalries in the country, Portsmouth and Southampton. So, just up the road, Southampton, much more modern stadium here at St. Mary's, Southampton Football Club. One of these new kind of rectangular 30,000 seat stadiums. As a stadium, not much going on, but it's new, it's comfortable, and they can get some pretty good atmosphere when they're up for it. I happen to sell a hospitality package there too. I can get you into this lounge, hit you up the buffet before the game. Southampton is also a port town, but it's the industrial port. Big industrial port, as well as home of cruise lines. And this is the Queen Mary 2 that happened to be there when I was there. So kind of fun to go down and check out the scenery out there. By the way, I forgot to mention, but Portsmouth and Southampton both about a 2-hour train ride from central London. There is some old stuff around Southampton as well. This is part of the old wall system that you can walk and learn some things about the history. This is the Duke of Wellington pub that goes back in its current form to 1490 A.D. This is Jane Austen's house. So there's some cool stuff to do down there. But it also is the last town that the Titanic left from before it went out and sank. And in fact, Southampton is where they hired a lot of the crew and staff on the ship. So it hit very hard in that town. This is in a museum there, which I highly recommend. This is actually a map of the city at the time, and those red dots, each one is on a house in which a resident died on the Titanic. So it was a big deal in Southampton. A little further west along that coast, Bournemouth. Bournemouth is sort of this amazing success story of a tiny club that was almost out of business, got themselves up to the Premier League. They have stayed there for several years now, and they've got an 11,000 seat stadium. Look at this place. It's remarkable that a club that size has stayed up there. Makes it the toughest ticket in the country, by the way. But it's a cool town, 2 hours out from London. It was actually established only a couple hundred years ago as literally as a posh seaside resort. So by English standards, it's pretty new, but beautiful. Great beach. Nice town to go walking around in, cool parks, etc. What I did was take a bus over to a town called Poole, which is another historic port town, really fun waterfront, where I got on a boat and took a little boat ride and went out past these amazing cliffs, these chalk cliffs. These are not the famous Dover cliffs, but the same thing geologically. And wound up in a really neat town called Swanage, Swanage, where I went for a little walk up in the hills, found a little fun fish and chips thing in a little kind of food cart area, and really enjoyed my day in Bournemouth. So, Little further west now, or north now, sorry, Bristol, once described to me as the Portland, Oregon of England, really becoming an up and coming, very young university hipster kind of a town. Lovely place as well, very close to the ocean. Again, some nice hills around town. This beautiful, famous suspension bridge just on the edge of town. And they are a historic seafront town as well, or a port town, and they have really redone their whole waterfront, turned it into a cool place with lots of condominiums, lots of shops, lots of restaurants, and some old touches as well, as some old boats that you can go and tour. And you can take a little ferry, a little tour around the harbor in this cool old boat that I got on. An old pub from the, I don't know, 15th or 16th century or something. And yeah, the hipster touches. When I saw the DIY on the bike, I thought, yeah, I know this place. But what really did it was this: a dude playing bagpipes outside of a pickle cart. Come on, Bristol. What are you doing? Two clubs there. Bristol City, currently in the championship and have been for quite a while. Proper big club and nice stadium, and wasn't particularly full when I was there, but a well-supported club. Stadium's right in the middle of town. And across town, a much smaller club called Bristol Rovers. This is a really traditional, old school family club. The day I was there, I think I just walked up to that turnstile, put 20 pounds down in cash and walked right in, jumped on the terraces, and started singing Goodnight Irene with all of the gas heads, as they call themselves. So Bristol Rovers, small, fun, friendly family club. Go check them out. They don't play each other too often, by the way. This looks like a circle around nothing. This is actually just out in the Cotswolds, a little village too small to show up on that map called Nailsworth. This is actually the smallest town, just about 6,000 population, to ever host a football league club. And we'll get to that club in just a second, but this is proper Cotswolds. This is country walks. This is charming villages surrounded by sheep and farms. This is ancient towns. And this is actually a hotel you can stay in Nailsworth. Just a remarkable. And the club is Forest Green Rovers. What's fun about them is they were just a tiny little village club forever till they got purchased by a guy who made his money in like renewable energy, and he has turned them into like solar powers on the roof, electrical charging stations for your cars, organic grass, and famously, this is also just a small little stadium, 5,000 or 6,000 seats. You're right in the middle of stuff here at Forest Green Rovers. But what they're famous for is all the food is vegan. The players are on a vegan diet. The food is vegan. And I got to tell you, it's really good. I had some killer samosas before the game when I was there. So check out Forest Green Rovers. Birmingham up here, about an hour and a half on the train from the London stations to the main station in Birmingham. Honestly, Birmingham, not a lot there for the tourist. There's some good art museums. There's some really good like Michelin-starred restaurants. If you're into the Industrial Revolution, this is kind of where it happened. This is in the jewelry district, which is kind of fun to go and check out. But what you really got to do is go get some Balti. It's a type of curry that was invented in Birmingham. And apparently this thing of having the menu under the glass on the table is part of the whole experience. These are all these different curries here, all these different Balti style. I don't know what Balti is exactly, other than really stinking good. They put it in this, they bring it out in the pan that they cooked it in. Really good. Go down to the Balti Triangle, get some Balti, check it out. 3 clubs in Birmingham. The first is Birmingham City. They're right in the middle of town. Easiest one to get to. Been in the championship for a while. Honestly, as a neutral, I don't think they offer a whole lot of excitement. It's a nice enough stadium, easy to get to. Go check them out. They're going to hate me for this, by the way. When Birmingham fans ever see this video, they're going to be really upset when I tell them that West Brom is a much more fun place to go. This is West Bromwich Albion, the Hawthorns. They have been up and down in the Premier League the last few years, probably going back up in 2020, and love this place. 25,000 seats. Not much going on around the stadium, but they can get a proper atmosphere going in there when they're up for it. The other big club up there, Wolverhampton Wanderers. They are currently in the Premier League. They've been on a spending spree for several years now. They got a great coach, some really top players, fun team to watch. When I saw them here, they were in the championship, so the place wasn't full, but it is a legendary atmosphere right now in the Premier League. It is rocking there. If you can get a ticket, it's a really hard ticket to get to Wolverhampton. But cool stadium. Everything is in their old gold color, as you can see. And one thing about it is, I don't know what, from the Wolverhampton train station over to the stadium is the 10 or 15 minute walk, and I feel like you pass 20 cool pubs in the way. This is one, goes back to Victorian times. Great, easy place to get to, and lots of good pubs. What's to go wrong? A little bit moving around now on the clock here. This is Leicester. Been in the Premier League for a while now. Obviously, famously won it several years ago. As a tourist, maybe not the most exciting town in England, but a nice place to go. This is kind of a famous walkway that they got that cuts across town. One thing that's fun is there's some amazing murals all around. This is Jamie Vardy on fire. And here's another one. This is the 12th man, the Blue Army. We are the champions of England. A lot of fun stuff going on around Leicester, and one of the top-rated craft beer pubs in the country. Do with that as you will. It's in the book. If you want to know where it is, what it's called, there you go. Obviously, the club there, Leicester City, the King Power Stadium, they make it a really fun atmosphere. You can see this kid play space outside the stadium. And inside, I tell you, it's one of the better atmospheres when they're up for it. Moderately tough ticket here as well, but I'm telling you, it's a fun place to go. A little bit further north now, Nottingham. This is a good solid maybe 2.5 hours by train outside of London. So we're just on the edges of my kind of range here. And yes, by the way, Nottingham. Here's the Robin Hood statue. Go and pay your respects, I suppose. Nottingham Castle, sorry. I'm not sure what's left of Sherwood Forest, by the way, but you can go check it out. It's a pretty cool town. The whole central area is pedestrianized, as they say. Lots of shops, lots of restaurants. They've also redone their old canal system, so you got pubs and things and condominiums lining the waterways. They got two famous old pubs. This is the Bell Inn. You can see there it says established 1437. It's the pretty much longest continuously running pub right in that location in the whole country. The other one they got claims to go back to 1189 AD, ye old trip to Jerusalem. I think there's some dispute about that date, but whatever. Super cool pub. It's actually in the caves underneath Nottingham Castle. So go into ye old trip to Jerusalem. Really cool place. Two clubs there, Nottingham Forest, who I really want to go up and get back to the Premier League. Really cool stadium. You can see right by the River Trent here. They won the European Championship a couple times, the 79, 80, 81 area. They spent that money on the stadium. They built a beautiful stand over there, and they are a great club. I didn't say great things about them in my book because they were down and miserable when I visited, but I've heard from a lot of their folks they got a much better attitude now. And speaking of pay your respects, the guy that won them Europe, all-time legendary manager Brian Clough, his statue is not out at the stadium. It's in the middle of town, so go pay your respects to Brian Clough. The other club there is Notts County Football Club, which, as you can see just from this picture, not a big-time operation, but that's what I like about them. They are the oldest professional football club in the world, and until very recently had been in the Football League longer than anybody else in existence. They just got relegated a couple years ago. They're down in the 5th tier now. They got this remarkable stadium for where they are and what they are. They got a 20,000-seat stadium. It's just across the river from Nottingham Forest, two closest grounds to each other in the country. So if County are at home, go check out the Magpies. Swinging around the clock a little bit more, Cambridge. Yes, it's that Cambridge with the university and all the colleges. So go get yourself a tour guide like this guy on the left here. Hire him, go on a walking tour around Cambridge, and let him tell you stories. Let him tell you about the ghosts and the pubs. Let him tell you about the castles and the beautiful churches and the colleges and everything. Cambridge, a beautiful town. Only about an hour from London by train, by the way. This apple tree, Sir Isaac Newton was like a professor at one of the colleges there, and apparently they grew this apple tree as a clipping from that apple tree. Who knows? Famous clock here with this sort of grasshopper dragon monster on top of it. This is the pub where they announced the discovery of DNA. I mean, this is the kind of place Cambridge is, right? And then what you got to do when you're there is go for a punt. Now, an American thinks that a punt is kicking a football, but in Cambridge, a punt is this little boat on the River Cam, and you get in there and you get yourself a hot drink, and people who are not always that colorfully dressed, but nonetheless, they take you around for a punt, a little river trip to check out Cambridge from the water. Highly recommended. The club there, Cambridge United, down in League Two, but a proper old school neighborhood, almost like I think at least a partially fan-owned club. You can see this is not glamour. This is old school English football, and I love it. I had a great time at Cambridge, standing there on the terraces. Look at the size of this place. It's nothing. It's great. And that's the rowdy end right there. They make some pretty good noise for that number of people. And last place we're going to visit on this little tour is Norwich. I want to say ahead of time to you folks in Ipswich Town, I'm really sorry. I just haven't made it there yet. I'm getting there. I really am. I know you're going to see Norwich here and see me skip Ipswich, and you're going to hate me. Sorry, can't help you. Norwich, however, a couple of hours out from central London, beautiful old medieval city that survived World War II pretty well intact, and famous for their cathedral built in about the 11th century. Amazing, beautiful building, great stained glass. And all of this old medieval stuff that is still intact. There's a whole quarter that you can go walking around through all of these little winding streets and everything, old churches, and so on. So like this pub, for example, is so old that there was a pub here when they were actually building the cathedral in the 11th century. This particular building is not quite that old, but this is a 100-year-old pub called Adam and Eve, which is a funny name for a pub to be out behind a cathedral. So there are parts of Norwich. This is a neighborhood called Elm Street. So old and so intact and so authentic that they actually shoot movies there. If they want to film something in the 17th or 18th century, they come here to Norwich to do it. So cool market in the middle of town. Got these neat food stalls here. But as far as food in Norwich, I just got to tell you, in all my travels around England, over 100 games, 60 different stadiums, over 6 years, you need to go to Norwich and go to Lower Goat Lane, funny name, but Grosvenor Fish Bar is the best fish and chips I have ever had in my life. You could bounce a quarter off of that fish. It is so good. Oh, football, right. So Norwich City Football Club, Carrow Road, right down in the middle of town, short walk from the train station. Festive, fun atmosphere. You might run into these two while you're down there. Neat old stadium. Good combination between convenient, old school, and comfortable. I happened to catch their big derby match with Ipswich Town. Place was packed and rocking. It's a great atmosphere in there. Love, love, love Norwich City. All right, so there you have it. There's a good little tour of a bunch of clubs and cities that are within a couple of hours of London. Get out of the capital city. Get out of the regular tourist areas. Go out and see some proper English football. Any questions about the details on all this kind of stuff, check the links down below. Anything I've written about these clubs is all linked there. Come see us at groundhopperguides.com, and I'll see you at the grounds.